This Friday, head to ROGERS, voted the best flea market in Ohio as we celebrate 60 years with hundreds of vendors, food, fun, live auctions, live bands, and special events. Free parking, free admission. Go to RogersOhio.com. Start your weekend off right. We want to be your Friday night.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to In Ohio Country Today. Joining me now is Wade Baer, and we're in beautiful ROGERS, Ohio, at ROGERS Community Auction and Open Air Market. And tell us about this wonderful facility you have here, Wade.
Thanks, Dan. We have been here since 1955. This is our 60th anniversary. My granddad, Emmett, and grandmother, Lucille Baer, started it in 1955 as a local produce auction for the local produce growers to sell their produce, of course. They were open at that time 3 days a week. The flea market originally started with about 5 flea market vendors. Today we have around 1,675 spots available to flea market vendors that want to come down and sell their wares.
You know, Wade, it's kind of crazy how what goes around comes around, if you will. And you said you started as an opportunity for local farmers to sell their goods, and how incredible is that that's starting to make more of a comeback? That I'm sure you're starting to see more local artisans bringing in their goods and selling their goods, where people want to know where their food comes from these days. This is probably a great opportunity for them to show their wares and to sell what they're growing on their farms.
You're right, Dan. It is a great opportunity, and it does make me feel wonderful. And it shows that we do have a great future here, that we are not going to die out. With the internet and everything coming online these days, so many more people shopping that way, that just proves to the fact that people do want to know where their goods come from and do care about the growers and or producers of those goods.
Let's talk about the diversity of the growers that are here. I mean, just walking around the place, it's just amazing to me where you just see everything. I'm sure it's seasonal and it changes with the seasons, but let's talk about some of that diversity and where are some of these growers coming from?
Well, most of the produce growers are local. They're immediately within the county or 2 counties around. We do have the vendors as a whole. You know, there's a few produce vendors. Most of our vendors sell other hard goods or commodities. They come from everywhere from Chicago over into New York or down from Florida. They do come from a long ways away to get here on Fridays. So, yeah, it's a very diverse market, and pretty much if you don't think you can find it, come on down because it's probably here.
I'll tell you, one of the things that really amazed me on the way here from West Central Ohio is how beautiful a ride it is in some of the really nice communities like Lisbon just outside of here, and just the ride itself. It just seems like you're in a great part of the state. Let's talk about the environment that you're in and how your family was able to grow within this area.
Yeah, within this area, because of you coming from the flat country into the hilly country, being over here kind of, I guess, in what we call the foothills maybe, it is a beautiful country. And because of the hills, there's a lot of smaller farmers and not the amount of bigger farmers. That's how we're able to prosper with the local produce vendors, because they were all small-time guys, you know, on maybe a couple hundred acres at the most. So, but yeah, there's a lot to do around this area, especially coming the fall. We do have Beaver Creek State Park, which is down the street. There's beautiful. If you ever heard of Shaker Woods Festival, that's in August, 3 weeks in August. That's just north of us, about 7-8 miles. So it's a very nice little community here. Everything's close-knit and small.
You know, one of the things, too, that I noticed when you're driving around the parking lot is, you know, all the different tags where people are coming from. I mean, it's not just this part of Ohio. They're coming from all over the state of Ohio and Pennsylvania, for that matter.
That's right. Yeah, we sit about 8 miles from Pennsylvania and about 15 miles from West Virginia. So there's definitely from those 3 states. And then, of course, vacationers from – we've probably over the years seen license plates from at least the 48 the lower 48, maybe from Alaska too. But so yeah, they do come from a ways out to be here on Fridays. And
you know, what's exciting too is that I'm sure that you have some vendors that have been with you for a while. Let's talk about those that have stuck with you and have been here for some of the longest period of times, and what are some of the products and that they're selling here.
The original vendors in 1955, there were 2 main ones that were here. My granddad brought in from another auction that he worked, and one was they sold cheese, and one sold smoked meats. High Butch Meats, they're still here 60 years later. Now they are on their 3rd owner of the company. technically it's a second owner. It's the daughter of the second owner bought her dad out. They are still here selling, and they hold the exclusive on smoked meats. They are our only smoked meats vendor. And we do have several cheese vendors now, but there is one that they were here. The original owner of that was probably here 50 years before they retired and sold out. Those are our oldest vendors. There are several that have been here 20, 30, 40 years selling various goods. And then we get probably 20 or 30 new vendors sign up every week throughout the summer.
So when we're talking about the variety of the vendors, let's talk about that diversity. It's not just agricultural products, but there's a wide range of things that are happening here. Let's talk about some of those products that you are selling here. Some of the most popular ones.
One of the most popular, other than our produce vendors, we do have guys that sell tires, and they do install them right on the grounds, mount and balance. That is a very popular product. We have guys that sell grocery items in the buildings out here, and Mary's Donuts is an Amish lady and her daughters that sell donuts, and they make them, and they're about the size of a donut on a car tire, but they're pretty good too. As you can see, I've had a couple. So, but there's just such a wide variety. It's hard to pick out. Those are maybe a few of the most popular, but there's so many different. We have antiques and T-shirts and signs and about anything you could want, it's here.
Let's talk about the auctioning side of things. So what do you do on that end, and what are some of the products that you get involved in, and how does that operate within the grounds?
On Fridays, we have, 3 separate auctions. We have a 1 o'clock sale that's mostly miscellaneous, household goods, furniture, some tools, that kind of stuff. It starts at 1 o'clock. We have a 5 o'clock sale in that same barn that's when produce is in season. That's our produce. It also, this time of year, has flowers and plants and that kind of goods, too. That runs at 5. And then at 6 o'clock, small animals. We have a whole building devoted to small animals. Calves under 300 pounds, goats and lambs and rabbits and chickens, and we even get into some fancy birds and some parrots and parakeets at certain times. That sale also, they run 2 auctioneers, and there's a miscellaneous side to it, with just general goods on the outside.
What's usually the turnover? As far as the vendors are concerned? I mean, it seems like you like you mentioned, you have some that have been with you since the beginning, and obviously several that have been here for a long period of time. What's the normal turnover ratio of vendors that are here on an annual basis?
Vendors that are here on an annual, there's probably 450 vendors that are here every year that have permanent spots. Of those 1,675 spots, probably 75% of them are on permanent reserve basis. It's the same people every week. And then, of course, if they're not here, they can cancel. We'll give it to somebody else that's new or that doesn't have a reserve spot. But yeah, there are a lot that tend to stick with us. So,
one of the things too that I failed to mention is obviously it's a family business, so we got to take time out to talk about your family and those that are still participating and taking an active role in the operations on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, we are a large family. I am one of 6. My mother is still here, Beverly Klein. She is still part of the crew. My brothers, Ken and Bill, they're my older brothers. Ken's actually our president. Bill, I believe his title is vice president. And then myself, Wade, my older sister, Connie. Myself and Ken and Bill were the auctioneers and more or less the managers. My sister takes care of the payroll, the accounting, and the vendors and that end of things. My mom, she pays the bills and writes the checks to the auction consigners and that sort of deal there. I do have a little sister who's in Houston, Texas. Wow. She worked here, of course, when she was younger. And I have a little brother, Sam, who is out from around where you're at, out in Bucyrus, Ohio, working for Kalmbach Feeds. But he is an auctioneer, and he will come back home and work with us on occasion. So that's the family. Of course, my dad, Jim, he was the second generation. He was an only child, and he took it over after my granddad had passed away. He bought it off my grandma, and then he has since passed, and so we're third generation and carrying on. In addition to that, my nephew Colton Hall works here every day. He's part of our maintenance and our cleanup crews. He runs that. And then my niece, his sister Monica, she handles our special events and also works the auctions. Everybody kind of does a little bit of everything, but that's where they're at. And then I have several other nieces and nephews that work here on a part-time basis.
Wade, let's discuss what it took, or what was the decision behind the hours and the day that you're open on a regular basis, and obviously the seasonality of it. Let's kind of encapsulate that for our viewers.
When we first started, they were open 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and it was mainly an auction. It wasn't so much the flea market at the time. But over the years, we've moved to a Friday market, mostly to be different, to keep it off the weekend. There's tons of flea markets on the weekends and other things to do. That, and we also run public auctions. We have a separate auction company, and that's where we're at on Saturdays. So it's a little hard to be in two places at once. The times have pretty much been the same for forever. The 1 o'clock sale did move to 1 o'clock in about the mid to late 90s, but the 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock times have been there since, I would say, the beginning, since 1955. So,
it was kind of interesting when I came here today. Obviously, it's not the perfect conditions as far as weather-wise. A little cloudy out, and I just recognized the sea of humanity when I got to the front gate, and you told me this is like 65% full. It's not even close to being full.
Yeah, they were calling for more rain today, so we had some vendors cancel out on us. We're only about 65% full on vendors, and some of the people coming from a long ways away, when they see the rain, they don't plan on coming to attend as a buyer either. So yeah, this is not a busy day. Although you might think it is, it looks like it is. It's not busy day. 4th of July, we expect 4th of July weekend will move somewhere between 50 to 60,000 people through the gate. That's a guess. It's hard to count them. And we'll set up at 100+%. We'll set up vendor spots where we don't usually have vendor spots.
Is there any particular organizations that you work with, like 4-H or different types of consignment sales that are for people that are involved in those types of nonprofit organizations?
As far as working with the 4-H, we do 2 county fairs that we volunteer time for. Columbiana County, which we're located in Columbiana County, and north of us is Mahoning County. Or if anybody's ever heard of the Canfield Fair, that is Mahoning County. We do the 4-H sales there. We've never really, we do the bake sales and that kind of goods, and sometimes 4-H groups will call us with a bake sale or something, and we'll get involved with that.
And let's talk about the farm condition. Obviously, you've been involved in some auctions as far as the farms are concerned. Are they profitable? Are they doing well? Or what's the state of affairs when it comes to agriculture here in the eastern part of the state?
They seem to be doing fairly well. We haven't had a chance to really sell many farms lately because I believe they are doing well. And that and the oil and gas industry moved in here about 4 or 5 years ago, and that kind of changed the landscape a little bit on financial needs. Kind of took care of some financial needs for several people. Wow. But so yeah, I believe the agriculture in this area is getting better. It's getting stronger, and they're having a lot easier time of it than they were in the past.
That's good to know. That's good to hear. Wade, let's tell our viewers, if they want more information, where can they go?
You can go to rogersohio.com. That is our website, and we are in the process of getting a new website. So if you get on there and you can't find what you want, just wait a little bit. Kim Seabolt's our promotional director, and she is cracking the whip on the guys there to get a new website. And if you need to know more about auctions, baerauctions.com. It's BAER, auctions with an S.com is our auctioneer's website. So,
and I'm glad you mentioned Kim too, because she's been a great asset to us and helped getting us here and getting you on our TV show in Ohio Country Today. We'll also have a link to their website on our website at inohiocountry.com. Wade Baer has been our guest. Wade, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Dan.
And we'll be back with more in Ohio Country Today right after this.